Lipton Tea and Lipton Soup present Inner Sanctum Mysteries, starring Wendy Barry. Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum. This is your host to welcome you through the squeaking door into a gay little world of homicidal maniacs, vampires, ghosts, werewolves, and assorted forms of sudden and gory death. Friends, if you ever walk through a cemetery at midnight and see a girl whose hair is on fire and is carrying her head under her arm, you know what to tell her, don't you? Just say, keep a cool head on your shoulders, Toots. And run like crazy.
I suppose you think that kind of advice will help her.
Why, of course, Mary. What else could you say to a girl whose hair is on fire? Wait, I know what you'd tell her. You'd say, my dear, why don't you cool off with a glass of Lipton's iced tea?
I declare, you sure think of Lipton's at the strangest times. But you know, folks, come to think about it, this is a strange time of year. The days are hot, and yet the nights are apt to be a bit chilly. Yes, this is the time when people keep cool with a refreshing pitcher of Lipton's iced tea while the sun's on the rampage, and then later, after sundown, a hot cup of Lipton seems to taste just right. And do you know the reason why Lipton's, hot or iced, is always so welcome and satisfying? Well, it's because Lipton's has that famous brisk flavor. That word brisk, B-R-I-S-K, means that Lipton tea tastes fresh and full-bodied. It's never flat or wishy-washy. That's right, folks. You just don't know how good tea can be till you've tried Lipton's.
And now, friends, get ready to try a new kind of Inner Sanctum story. It's called TheMurder Prophet, and it's an original radio play by Milton Lewis, who copied it from a tombstone. Yes, and our star tonight is that glamorous Hollywood movie star, Wendy Barry, who plays the role of Claudia Dale. All right. Clear the floor and give your flesh room to creep. Ready? Now let's hear Claudia tell us the story in her own words.
At exactly midnight, I saw him for the first time. My headlights picked him up when he hailed me along a lonely stretch of road near my home. I wouldn't have stopped, but the storm was so fierce, I felt sorry for him. I drew up to the side of the road.
Thank you.
Going far?
No, not far.
Where to?
I'll let you know.
Oh, what's that?
Where?
There on the side.
Tombstone.
Oh, there's a cemetery where I picked you up.
Yes, Birch Lawn.
Cigarette?
No, thank you. I don't smoke.
He said nothing for a few minutes. In the reflection of the dashboard light, I saw his face for the first time. Sunken eyes, hollow cheeks, mouth set in a queer grin, a skull barely covered with a thin layer of milk-white flesh. With a start, I realized he was staring at me.
I've seen you before.
Oh, I don't think we've met.
No, I know you.
Are you sure?
Yes. I would never forget someone so beautiful.
Oh, really?
You're Claudia Dale.
Why, yes.
You're married to Howard Dale.
That's right. But I don't seem to place you.
No, you wouldn't. I know quite a lot about you.
Do you really?
Your first husband was Willard Banks.
How did you know that?
He died 8 years ago, a suicide.
Who are you?
You don't know me. Be careful, you're speeding.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
You're trembling.
How do you know so much about me?
I just know.
Oh, really? I suppose you have second sight or some such rubbish.
It is not rubbish.
Then tell me where I'm coming from.
Pittsfield.
You guessed.
You went there to visit a sick friend, Martha Walston.
But you couldn't guess that.
You're going too fast. You're losing control.
No, I'm not. I'm quite all right. I can go fast if I choose to. I shall go as fast as I wish.
Would you care to know more of yourself?
No. No, I do not find your little trick particularly amusing. Besides, What else do you think you can tell me about myself?
Your future.
Oh, nonsense.
Your husband is dead.
Howard?
Murdered.
Oh, you're lying.
You'll find his body on the floor near the piano of your living room when you get home. There are 2 bullets in his head.
Get out of here. Get out of this car. Get out. You hear me? Get out.
Very well. It happens that this is where I wish to go. Good night, and thank you, Mrs. Dale.
He vanished into the shadows on the side of the road. And then I noticed something white and shining queerly in the spot where he disappeared. I looked closely. It was another tombstone in another cemetery. I raced madly for home, fighting the hysteria that seized me. The nightlight was burning in the living room. It couldn't be true. Howard would take me in his arms and kiss me when I stepped into the house. I rang the bell. No answer. Somehow I managed to get the key in the lock. I ran into the living room. Howard!
Don't move.
Oh, who is it?
I'm right behind you. I've got a gun.
Oh, a gun.
Do it in the body.
Who are you?
Turn around.
Oh, you murdered him.
Keep quiet.
Oh, don't come near me.
Sit down.
Don't touch me.
I said sit down.
Oh.
Sorry I had to slap you. You're losing control. You don't have to scream for the police. Here's my badge.
You?
Detective Sergeant Quinn. Homicide.
Oh, well, I thought you were...
Yes, I know. Drink this.
Thanks.
Feel better?
Yeah, much.
Who is he?
My husband.
Sure?
Positive. When was he killed?
About 20 hours ago. 4 yesterday morning.
How do you know?
One of the bullets went wild. Hit that clock on the mantel. Where were you yesterday morning?
Pittsfield. I stayed with a sick friend, Martha Wallstone.
Here, look at these things. I took them out of his pocket. They all his?
Yes. Where's the snake ring?
There were no rings.
But he had one. It was quite valuable. He was never without it. I gave it to him.
All right, now look. Did he wear it on the 3rd finger of his left hand?
Yes.
There's a mark, but no ring.
When did you come here?
I drove in behind you. You left the front door open.
I think I know who killed him.
Who?
A man I met on the road coming here. He knew my husband had been murdered.
You did, huh?
He even said his body would be near the piano.
When did you see this guy?
Oh, 10, 20 minutes ago. Picked him up on the road.
Where?
At Birch Lawn Cemetery.
Where'd you drop him?
At another cemetery near here. He seemed to walk behind one of the tombstones. Oh, I know it sounds mad, but it happened just as I said.
What's his name?
I don't know, but he looked like a human cadaver. Like a man who's dead and... Oh, you don't believe me.
Why'd you kill your husband?
What? What are you saying?
You heard me.
Well, I told you I was in Pittsfield.
Why'd you go there?
Martha was ill.
Were you there at 4 yesterday morning?
Well, of course.
Don't lie.
Stop shouting at me. I told you who killed him. What are you trying to do to me? Isn't it enough to come home and find Howard like that without you trying to... Oh, in heaven's name, leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Not a scotch, lady?
No, thanks. Here, keep the change. I'm leaving.
Sit down, Mrs. Dale. Don't go yet.
You?
Yes. Won't you please sit down?
Yes.
Didn't expect to find you here.
Nor I you.
Are they making it difficult?
It's a nightmare.
You told them about me?
Yes.
You shouldn't have. They wouldn't understand.
Did you kill him?
Would you care for another drink, Mrs. Dale?
No. Who are you?
I'll tell you later.
Why'd you come here?
To talk to you. I knew I'd find you here.
Yes, you knew.
You're not so skeptical now.
No. What did you want to tell me?
that you are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen and that I love you. I've loved you since I first saw you 7 years ago, when you came here to live with your husband.
Is that why
Why I killed him? Is that what you meant to say?
Yes.
I'm not an ordinary man, Mrs. Dale, but I'm not a fool. Now, on this card, you'll find my name, address, and telephone.
Do you really believe I'd phone you?
Yes. There will come a time when you shall want love. Good night, Mrs. Dale.
Good night. Hello? Operator, get me police headquarters and hurry, please.
Yes?
That's him, Detective Quinn. That's Garth Dragman.
Thank you, Mrs. Dale. Do you mind coming down to headquarters, Mr. Dragman?
Not at all. Did she tell you that I murdered her husband?
Yes.
I thought she would. I'm not angry, Mrs. Dale, and what I told you earlier this evening still goes. I'll come along right now, Mr. Quinn.
I didn't sleep a wink that night. Twice I got out of bed and drove to police headquarters. The lights were blazing in Quinn's office. I went in the third time. I couldn't bear waiting.
Oh, Miss Dale.
Well,
Glad you stopped by. We checked everything Dragman said. Seemed he was in the same bar and grill where you met him tonight when your husband was killed.
you believed him?
Naturally. Bartender and several regular customers backed up his story. Seems they all left together after the place was closed to play poker.
Well, what about the things he said to me in the car? How could he know about the murder before you or I?
That I don't know. Perhaps he does have second sight. Odd-looking fellow, isn't he? You can't arrest a man for murder because of that.
He's criminally insane, I tell you. I know he is.
My dear Mrs. Dale.
Oh. What's the use? I loved Howard. I loved him to the point of insanity. Otherwise, there was no accounting for the things I did when I left police headquarters. I was determined to find the man who murdered my husband. It was towards dawn when I made up my mind what to do. I went to Garth Dragman's home. I was about to ring the doorbell when...
Don't ring, Mrs. Dale. The door is open. Come in.
You were expecting me?
Yes, I was expecting you. Do you still think that I killed him?
I don't know what to think anymore.
Do you want me to find the person who murdered him?
Yes, more than anything in the whole world.
See, I have strange gifts, Mrs. Dale. And I do believe I understand the mind of a criminal. That mad impulse to crime, that strange, twisted desire to take a living being, a creature of arrogance and power, and make it a corroding, lifeless mass of flesh fit for worms.
Oh.
You're shocked? Crime is a shocking, evil thing. And only a man with the brain of a genius can succeed at it. And only a man with a greater brain can trap a successful criminal. I'll find your murderer for you, Mrs. Dale. On one condition.
What's that?
That you marry me.
I felt my body turn to ice. I knew I was talking to a madman. I was sure I was talking to the man who'd murdered my husband.
Oh, shucks. It's not so hard to predict a murder. I can do it. It's easy. I predict that there'll be at least one murder every week on Inner Sanctum.
Good gracious, yes. You might say it's worth a character's life to appear on this program.
Oh, don't feel sorry for them, Mary. Don't forget they can always make a comeback as a ghost on next week's show. In fact, I predict that Claudia's husband will be around one of these Tuesdays.
All right, now it's my turn to make a prediction. And I predict that during the coming fall and winter, more people will drink Lipton tea than any other brand.
Oh, you said that last year.
Yes, and it came true then just as it will now. Folks just naturally seem to prefer Lipton's. If you'd ask a tea expert to explain this preference, he'd say it's because Lipton's has a brisk flavor. You see, that word brisk B-R-I-S-K, is a technical word. Brisk means that Lipton tea always tastes fresh and tangy. Yes, full-bodied and vigorous, never flat or insipid. So, folks, even if you're not a regular tea drinker, you should try Lipton's. That brisk flavor makes all the difference in the world.
All right. Let's get back to the other world now. The world of creeping, crawling horrors. I'll bet you think that Garth Dragman can't really foretell murders. Or do you think that Claudia doesn't have the courage to trap this homicidal Romeo? Or is he the killer? Well, we'll let our star, Wendy Barry, in the role of Claudia, tell you. Go ahead, Claudia. Shock him into the shakes.
2 weeks later, I married Garth Dragman. He was the strangest man I ever knew. He would disappear for days at a time, and then suddenly turn up without warning. He had all the money he wanted, yet I never knew where it came from. There was a closet in his room which was always kept locked and bolted. I knew from the way he acted about it that the closet contained the answer to all the things I wanted to know about him. One night while he was away, I obtained tools and tried to force the lock.
Good evening, Claudia.
Oh, Garth.
You didn't expect me back, did you?
No,
I knew you'd try to open that closet someday.
Well, why do you keep it locked?
So that no one but myself shall know what's in there.
Not even I?
You in particular.
But, Garth,
You'll not attempt to open it again, will you, Claudia?
No.
Forgive me for striking you. I'm not quite myself tonight. I sometimes do things I regret when these moods come upon me.
He sat down. He seemed terribly exhausted, completely spent. But there was a strange, wild light in his eyes. He seemed like a man intoxicated with some strange drug that few men know the taste of.
You do forgive me, don't you, Claudia?
Yes, of course.
See, it's something that few people know, Claudia, but a person who has extraordinary powers carries an extraordinary burden.
You mean your gift of prophecy?
Yes, I didn't want to mention it. It seems to upset you so.
It doesn't frighten me any longer.
Did you read in the newspaper about a woman's body being found in the river? She'd been murdered, garroted.
Yes, it was in this evening's paper. They don't know who she is.
I can tell you who she is. Josephine Ford. The stupid girl, Claudia. I could have told you that she'd be murdered 3 days ago.
How do you know these things?
Because I see them. A sort of vision. Now I'm seeing another vision. It's a house, 346 Harbor Street. Near the waterfront, a young woman lies in bed reading. She's very attractive. In an hour, she'll be dead. When the police come, they'll find her body decapitated. The criminal did this to destroy her identity.
But who is the criminal?
What difference does it make? He'll never be caught.
Garth, while you were gone, Martha Wallstone telephoned. She's ill again.
Oh.
She asked me to come up immediately.
Why didn't you go?
Well, I was waiting for you to get home before I left.
You want to leave immediately?
If you don't mind. It's really an emergency.
You may go, Claudia. I shall go to sleep. I'm extremely tired.
It took only a few minutes to get to the waterfront. I found the house at 346 Harbor Street. I went in. The lamp in the bedroom was burning. I looked at the bed. I fainted.
Hey, Mrs. Dale. Think you can sit up now?
Detective Quinn.
Yes. Hardly expected to find you here.
I came because Garth Dragman predicted this would happen.
Oh, Mrs. Dale.
You still don't believe me?
You're a strange woman, all right. You accused this man of killing your husband, and then you married him. I suppose you're going to accuse him of this murder, too.
Yes, this and heaven only knows how many others.
Miss Dale, do you realize that you haven't got a single piece of evidence to back up your contention?
I'll get the evidence tonight. Will you let me have a gun?
No.
Will you be near my house? I'll need protection.
Oh, after all.
What must I do to convince you what he is? I've risked my own life. I'm willing to risk it again. He's a monster. You're going to wait until he murders me before you believe what I say.
All right. I'll give it a try. I'll come back to your house with you. If you want me for an emergency, smash the window pane.
We drove back together. I dropped Detective Quinn on the corner. The house seemed deserted when I came in, but I wasn't taking any chances. I went to the kitchen, got a knife, hid it in the folds of the long-sleeved gown I was wearing. I went into Garth's room. He wasn't there. But the closet door was open. What I saw in there nearly made me ill. Clothes. Garth's clothes. Some of them soaked in blood. I forced myself to examine them. Then I found something that made my heart beat faster. A little jewelry case.
I'll take that, Claudia.
Oh, Garth.
Give me that jewelry case,
Oh, no.
please.
No, don't take it.
Thank you.
Garth.
Get away from that window, Claudia. Go on.
Oh, don't shoot, Garth.
You were so anxious to see what's in that closet. Well, now you have. And perhaps you'd like to see the latest addition to my collection. It's in this box.
That box.
Yes, Claudia. A hat box.
Garth!
Sit down, Claudia.
What are you going to do?
Tell you who killed your husband.
You?
No. You.
You're insane.
I've written out a confession for you to sign.
What'll happen if I don't sign it?
Well, I credited you with more imagination. Would you like to hear it?
Yes. Yes, read it, please.
Sit over here, away from that window.
Yes.
I, Claudia Dale, murdered my first husband, Willard Banks, for his insurance by administering poison.
My first husband?
Yes, Claudia. See, I mean to make this document strong enough to send you to your death if I wish. I've got all the details here, just how you murdered your first husband, how you killed your second. Shall I go on?
No. You know it's all a lie.
Will you sign it?
Of course not. Just what is your game anyway? If you want to kill me, why don't you shoot? You've been very successful before. There's no reason you shouldn't succeed again. Go on, shoot.
You put me in a very difficult position, Claudia. You see, you have found out certain things about me. Things that could cost me my life. I will not tell you again to get away from that window, Claudia. I should prefer to see you live because I love you. But I shouldn't hesitate to murder you.
You love me?
Yes.
You haven't taken me in your arms once since I know you.
The right time had not arrived.
What do you consider the right time?
When I feel that you understand me. When I feel that you, who murdered two men, understand the deep and strange cravings and desires that race in my blood.
You really believe I'm a murderess?
Of course. That's why I love you.
Then the time is now.
The time?
To take me in your arms.
Claudia.
He still held the gun. He wasn't more than 2 inches from me. I turned my lips up to him. I twisted my body to get out of the range of his revolver. When I felt his lips touch mine, I slowly let the knife slip into my hand. Slowly, caressingly, I drew my hand up towards his neck. Then I plunged the blade in.
Gloria!
Detective Quinn! Hurry!
I'm coming. What happened?
I killed him. And here's the proof that he murdered my husband. I found it in the jewelry case he had in his pocket. It's the snake ring that was missing from my husband's body. Now do you believe me? That's the whole story. I realize that you, as the district attorney, must know all the facts. There they are.
Thank you. There are a few points in the story that interest me particularly. First, the confession that he asked you to sign.
What about it?
The confession says that you were out in Pittsfield at 4 a.m. when your husband was killed. You gave your friend Martha Wallstone a sleeping pill, drove her down here, shot your husband, drove back to Pittsfield, turned Miss Wallstone's bedside clock to 4:15 and wakened her. And you gave her the medicine. She thought it was 4:15 and went back to sleep.
Garth was very clever at things like that. He had extraordinary brilliance of the insane.
And just one question. Was that the way you murdered Howard Dale?
I? Oh, but Garth murdered him. The ring proves it.
You never had the ring. You put it in the jewelry box.
I can't believe what you say. Garth was a homicidal maniac. He predicted the death of the people he murdered.
My dear woman, don't you know yet?
Know what?
Garth Dragman was a detective working out of my office. That's how he knew about those deaths. He was put on the case because we suspected you of murdering your first husband as well as your second.
A detective?
Yes. And you're going to die for killing him. It's extremely daring and clever of you to murder him. But you never would have gotten away with it if he hadn't kissed you. He kissed you because he fell in love with you. That poor fool.
Well, friends, that just goes to prove that you should never pick up hitchhikers who come out of cemeteries at midnight. And I bet you've guessed the moral for our story. It's taken from a famous quotation that Harry the Hangman uttered during a nightmare. Never steal the rings of people you murder, on account of that's robbery.
My goodness, you call that a moral. That's one of the most immoral things I've ever heard you say.
All right, Mary, I'll take it back. Now, here's one you really like. There's many a slip twixt the cup and the Lipton. That's why teaspoons were invented.
That's very clever. But I guess the reason they're called teaspoons is because people drink tea so many times during the day. Yes, folks enjoy that brisk Lipton tea not just at mealtime, but between meals as well, such as when friends drop in for a visit. That's why it's a good idea always to keep a good supply on hand. So folks ask for Lipton tea in the larger, more economical size packages.
And now here's a cheerful little thought. You can let a man murder you once, but you'd have to be a stiff to let him do it again. Oh, by the way, this month's Inner Sanctum mystery novel is Puzzle for Wantons by Patrick Quentin. Yes, and next week's Inner Sanctum story, directed by Hyman Brown and brought to you by Lipton Tea and Lipton Soup. Next week's story is about a woman with canary yellow eyes, murderous eyes. Everyone she looks at, she wants to kill. And you know what? She keeps a harpoon in her house. Well, well, you never know what's going to harpoon next. And now I'm afraid it's time to close the squeaking door. So, good night. Pleasant dreams.
Folks, it's wonderful how little time cooking takes these days. Now, when I was a girl, my mother used to spend half a day making a pot of chicken noodle soup. But now we have Lipton's noodle soup mix. And when you use Lipton's, you just empty the contents of the package into boiling water, and in no time at all, soup's on. And what delicious chickeny tasting soup it is. Yes, Lipton's has an old-fashioned homemade flavor, and it's brim full of tender golden egg noodles. So, folks, don't forget to ask for Lipton's Noodle Soup. And don't forget to tune in next Tuesday night for another Inner Sanctum mystery.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum. Well, here it is, Tombsday again, and this is your ghost host at the squeaking door. Tonight's story is called The Last Story. It's an original radio play by Christopher Mayle, and our star is Richard Widmark, who plays the role of Tony Muse. We're going to a small Maine coast fishing village. Flounder Cove, where fishing folks go to bed early, to the lullaby of the surf and the buoys offshore. But this night there is a new note added to the lullaby, a discordant note, which for all its strangeness serves only to keep awake the man responsible for it. Anthony Muse, a young newspaper man from the city, is typing furiously while his bride sleeps in the other room of their fisherman's cottage.
Dead fingers cannot type. A dead heart cannot ache. But that's the end of a story that began when my paper sent me here to Flounder Cove to do a story on fishermen. I spent my first morning sizing up the town. And about noon, I found myself walking along a rocky bluff away from the village. I was approaching a little gray church and a little gray cemetery. And the grass was lush by the large tombstone.
Mother, give me some sign. Tell me. Show me that I'm not a murderess. I don't really want to kill anyone. But I feel it. I feel I must. Huh?
Sorry, miss. I was passing by and, I couldn't help hearing you.
You heard me?
Hey, wait a minute. Don't go. I'll leave you alone if you like.
Who are you?
Tony Muse. I didn't mean to eavesdrop.
All right. What you heard me say, you would have heard from the others. You stayed here a while.
This grave here, Mary Shermett. You were, talking to someone.
I'm Rita Sherman. She was my mother. She died when I was born. You heard me talking to her.
Well, I heard some nonsense about you not wanting to murder someone. You're not a murderess, are you?
I've been a murderer since the day I was born. Murder is in my heart, as it was in my mother's, as it was in her mother's.
Why do you keep your head turned away, Rita? Look at me for a moment.
No, I can't. Yes. I'll let you see. Look. Look at my eyes. Look in the sunlight.
Well, they're yellow.
Yes. Yes, yellow eyes. Murderer's eyes.
Her eyes were yellow. The most beautiful eyes I've ever seen. I saw sunlight and gold and buttercups dancing through tears. But I saw no murder there. Only a horrible hurt, a tortured soul. And I felt pity. And the desire to know more about Rita Sherman.
Yep. Killing runs in her blood. Got yellow eyes, just like a mouse was.
They're pretty eyes, though.
Yep, right pretty to look at. Mother's was, too. She got a killing fit and drived a knife through a man's heart.
Why?
No reason. She come near hanging for it.
Well, didn't she?
No. Governor changed it to life. She was going to have a baby.
Who, Rita?
Yeah, Rita. Mary Sherman died born in Rita, prison hospital. Uncle Zeb's good Christian. He took baby and raised her.
Well, why does she stay here?
She can't bring herself to break away from a ma's grave on a bluff. Talks to a ghost.
Everyone I spoke to agreed that Rita Sherman would kill someone someday. I should have taken the afternoon train. My story was finished. But I didn't. I should have forgotten Rita Sherman and her unhappiness. But I couldn't. When I saw her standing on a high point above the hungry rocks on the bluff that afternoon, when I watched her step to the very brink of that bluff, I should have turned my head away, but I couldn't. Rita, you little fool! No, Rita! No! Stop struggling, Rita. You come back. You come back or you take me with you.
Why don't you let me? I can't go on this way. I can't. Why did you do that? You had no right to slap.
I do have the right. I love you.
Oh, dear heaven. No.
Is that so horrible, Rita?
Didn't Didn't you see in my eyes?
I saw superstitious nonsense, Rita. You've been told that you're a born murderer since you were a child. You're being driven toward it. I can help you, Rita. Please let me.
You can help me least of all.
Why do you say that?
Because of what Uncle Zeb told me last night.
What did he say?
That you are probably the man I was meant to kill.
I kissed her. And I found on her lips such a hunger for love and for understanding that I was blinded to the violent forces of nature I was dealing with. Had I known, I might not have called on Uncle Zeb that evening or heard what I did as I froze to the porch of Rita's waterfront shack. The front door was ajar.
Put that down, you she-devil. The money's gone and... No, don't!
I pushed the door open and I faced Uncle Zeb. Not a very pretty sight. Pinned to the wall by a long whaler's harpoon through his stomach. He wasn't dead yet. His red-rimmed drunkard's eyes pleaded for relief. But you can't pull a barbed harpoon back through a man. Even I knew that. Who did this, Zeb? Tell me who, quickly. Was it Rita, Zeb? It wasn't Rita, was it? Tell me! Tell me!
Not Rita.
Not Rita, he'd said. Not Rita. But who had done it? And who would believe that Rita, with her yellow eyes, hadn't done it? Who would believe that now that Uncle Zeb lay in a darkening pool with a stained harpoon coming through his back? Who?
Well, here comes the sheriff now. Hey, sheriff, did you catch her? Let me through here. Yeah. Come on, folks, let me through. Did you catch her, sheriff? Sure I did. Well, I know that Sherman gal would kill somebody someday. Yeah, sure, I know it.
Listen to me, Sheriff. Rita Sherman would kill anyone.
Quiet! You got it all wrong. Emma Hathaway done it.
What?
Plant Rita Sherman.
Say that again.
Rita Sherman didn't kill Uncle Zeb. Emma Hathaway killed him. Sherman gal couldn't have done it. She took the 5 o'clock express. Bought a ticket for New York.
I wasted no time leaving Flounder Cove. They promised to flag a through train for me that night. The sheriff came to the station with me, and he filled me in on the story.
Who would have guessed Mamie Hathaway and Zeb was buying all those stories about Rita?
But why, Sheriff? Were they trying to drive the crew crazy?
And or worse, they could murder somebody. And they'd have the money all clear.
What money?
Zeb got $20,000 in cash from Rita's ma while she was in prison to raise a gal on. Zeb thought nobody knew that, so he was going to use the money himself.
But Mamie Hathaway knew, huh?
Yep. Rita's ma told Mamie just before she died. Mamie told Zeb she knew. So he had to cut her in the deal.
Lovely people. What happened last night?
You come into the picture, and Mamie sees the gal's falling for you. She goes to Zeb and wants her share. And they each made a mistake.
How, Sheriff?
Zeb told Mamie he'd spent all the money. Mamie killed Zeb, thinking sure Rita'd be blamed for it. You see, son, nobody except Cal at the station here knew Rita had left Flounder Cove.
Do you know why she left, Sheriff?
I reckon I do, son. And I hope you find her.
I have to find her, Sheriff. I couldn't very well tell the sheriff why I had to find Rita Sherman. Better than anyone, I knew a girl was just then arriving in New York. A girl who was unstable enough to become a homicidal fiend. I was standing on the subway platform at 14 when I spotted Rita. She was standing at the front end of the platform with a small group. Things happened fast then, but I remember just as I started toward her, I noticed the man who wavered close to her at the edge of the platform. I saw her hands raised slowly toward the man's back, and then I heard the train coming.
Did you see?
He fell, Rita. Remember, he fell.
All right, now, everybody. Move along, man. Move along.
How did it happen, lady? You were standing close.
He was wheezing, sort of rocking forward.
I saw her go to pull him back, officer. She wasn't quick enough. Rita.
Yes.
You don't think you pushed the man, do you?
I'm not sure. I just saw him leaning, and I raised my hand. I just don't know, Tony.
Well, you didn't. I saw you. You were going to pull him back. Now let's talk about us. Darling, you don't know how I've looked for you, but now, baby, I'll never let you go.
Oh, Tony. I can't. I can't.
Can't what, darling?
I can't see you again. It's not that I don't want to, Tony. But Dr. White won't let me.
Who's Dr. White?
He's a wonderful man. He's curing me, Tony. He's a psychiatrist. He says it would be dangerous for me to see you. For a long time.
Dr. White. He became a high-polished wall I couldn't climb between me and the woman I loved. I forced a couple of dates with Rita, but it was always the same story. Dr. White says you were part of my past that must be forgotten. Dr. White says I'll have to forget you if he's secured. Dr. White says, White.
Dr. White will see you now, Mr. Muse.
Thanks.
Mr. Muse, what can I do for you?
Who's paying you for your services, Dr. White?
Why, no one. Rita came to me for help. I became interested in her case.
Oh? The case or the subject, White?
Frankly, both.
I see. Well, that puts the cards on the table. She comes to you as a patient wanting to be cured for my sake. You fall in love with her and influence her to stay away from me. Yeah.
Only part of that is true. She shouldn't see you yet.
A very neat way to eliminate competition, Doctor. Very neat. But I'm moving in. I suffered the tearing pangs of jealous hate in the days that followed. Rita refused to see me until White had released her as cured. But there was one way to beat White. And I planned accordingly. I parked my car across from his house on Long Island. It was a deserted section along the shore. Shortly after midnight, a cab came along, and I ducked. I followed White up the driveway until he heard me.
Who is it?
Tony Muse, Doc.
Muse? What are you doing here?
Let's go inside where it's comfortable.
Oh, no, we'll talk right here.
Don't let's mess up your driveway, White. This is a gun.
All right, Muse. What is it?
You've persisted in keeping Rita under your influence, Doctor. Now you're going to let her go.
Not a chance, Muse. And how can you make me do it? By killing me?
No, not by killing you. But a letter from you will do it.
Rubbish.
You'll either write what I tell you to write, or you'll never psych again.
All right. All right.
Dear Rita, I've been called to the coast for some important and confidential work. Before going, I've reviewed several of my cases. I feel that you have sufficiently advanced to be considered quite normal. I will check into your progress on my return. Sincerely yours, then sign it.
Frankly, Muse, this is childish. What's to prevent me from showing Rita this letter as a forgery?
I've thought of that, too, Doctor.
No, Muse. Why be rash? Listen to me.
The trouble with you as a psychiatrist, White, is that you never met anyone who wanted something as much as I want Rita Sherman. carry. I crammed the trunk compartment of the car shut on him, and I locked it. In town, I mailed a letter to Rita, and I waited centuries for the night to pass, and then more centuries for my phone to ring the next day. Tony Muse.
Tony.
Whoa, darling. Is there anything wrong? You're crying, Rita.
I know I can't help it, dear. I'm just so happy. I just received a letter from Dr. White. He says...
Rita, you don't mean he's released you.
Yes, I'm well and normal. And when can I see you, Tony?
Baby, pack your toothbrush. I'll pick you up in the car in 1 hour. We're heading for Lake Arrowhead, darling. This is your wedding day. Lake Arrowhead was a beautiful lake, and a deep one. It hadn't been easy to act normally on a trip up with White's day-old corpse in the car with me. But now I could rid myself of it. Only one ugly task left. Then time and Rita's love would dull these memories. I opened the car trunk, and I found his eyes staring at me. I pulled him out of the car. Now, the rope, the tarpaulin bag I'd bought, the knife, and the saw. The doctor's saw. I was ready. It took me a half hour in all. No one would have guessed then who was packed in the weighted tarpaulin package I dropped into the lake. It was finished. I was free. And I went back to Rita. Tonight we reached Flounder Cove. We're spending our honeymoon here. No man ever had more than I did to be happy about with Rita. Rita, my wife. It was an expensive moment. I only realized a short 2 hours ago that the happiness I'd bought was impossible to hold. Rita dozed off peacefully. I'd gone for a smoke and a walk on the moors. When I returned, I paused at our cottage door. There was someone moving about inside. I waited. Then I opened the door softly. Rita was easy to see in her white nightgown. She was walking softly toward the bedroom. She was walking in her sleep. I followed softly, my heart beating wildly. She paused for a moment by the bed, looking down at my empty place. And then she spoke in a voice that couldn't have been hers.
Yes, Mother. I know I must. Yes, Mother.
My world was still, hushed, balanced, ready to fall on me. Rita's arm raised slowly, and there was a single glint of mental as she brought her arm down, and she leaped on the bed like a wild animal. Her arm flailed up and down and up and down. I saw her get up. I saw the knife buried into the slit mattress. Watched my wife return to her bed. Then came here to write this story. The strange forces of the mind are not to be tampered with, unless it be to resolve their cure for all time. Well, that's the story. All but the ending. And the end of the story must be acted out. Ironic twist, too. The same gun I used on White. Rita will never wait to find it. is a murderess. It's far better this way. Happiness was not for either of us. To whom it may concern, I, Anthony Muse, do confess to the murder of Dr. Donald White of New York City. I further confess to the murder of my wife, Rita Sherman Muse, this night. This, my last story, I bequeath to all editors whose past patience has been tried by my artificial, unconvincing, and contrived efforts in fiction writing. I'm going for a walk on the bluff above the sea. Rita, didn't you know? Whom the gods would destroy, they first make man. Rita!
Mystery Theater. Every week, we'll reach into the dusty file, brush it off, and present a still, up-to-date replica of a whodunit of yesterday. This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.